Hi everybody, Bryan from the channel Bryan here. I'm a little bit late to the Minari party, but it only came to theaters where I live very recently. From director Lee Isaac Chung, this low-key family drama was kind of a sleeper hit from last year. Thankfully though, over the course of the months that followed, Minari slowly gained more and more traction, especially with Oscar nominations coming up. That attention is only growing. Attention that is well earned, because Minari is a film that certainly rises to the challenge of being a worthy Best Picture contender in a year where few have. And if I'm gonna look at Minari from that angle, I wouldn't be surprised if Yeun got a Best Actor nomination, even though, far as I care, it's still ride or die for Riz Ahmed. I would also not be surprised to see nominations for Best Original Score and Best Cinematography. Apparently, Chung himself grew up in rural Arkansas, around where the film takes place, so it's safe to say much of his personal upbringing has been poured into Minari as an emotional experience. He wears his Korean heritage uncompromisingly and infuses it deeply into the narrative. Culture clash is one of the film's defining dramatic forces. Minari's greatest asset is it rewards the emotional maturity of the audience. It never overstates the situation of our characters, but still properly establishes how they feel and the obstacles they have to overcome. The general sequence of events isn't contrived for dramatic effect. Instead, that comes from the unspoken emotions we know the characters are feeling based on what we know of them. For instance, the family is composed of 3 generations of varyingly Americanized Korean immigrants, and when these generations clash, it's not in these overblown, shouty scenes of undeserved nonsense. No, it's you getting a return on investment for paying attention and engrossing yourself in the story. I thought back to Hillbilly Elegy, which, on the surface, covers similar themes, but had such a skewed perspective in presenting them it confused the messages and antagonized characters in a way that didn't make sense. The subtextual criticism of the powers that be dismissing lower-class people and other societal ills that afflict the poor are so much more impactful here when you take other routes to communicate that than the bluntest ones possible. My favorite scenes come in the form of these atmospheric and beautiful moments of Yeun standing alone against a sunset pondering over his work as the score softly accompanies him. These little moments of respite he finds time for amidst constantly working and wondering if he'll be able to provide for his family really nail a balance of empathic concern and serenity. It doesn't demonize anyone. There's a character in this film who is deeply fanatically religious, and in any other movie he'd be treated like the easy target that he is. Minari features a multitude of angles on the concept of faith, but this character is not presented as a bad person because of his pious devotion. Even for the characters who are coded as embodying prejudice are more complex than, I am an American from the South, which means I don't like immigrants. Go back to where you came from. There are ideas that could have been better optimized, but those moments are few and far between and don't account for any huge losses in my satisfaction. A few imperfect deliveries don't compare to the wealth of successes Minari brings to the table. I think this is an important film for Yeun, as even though his performance in the film Burning I like much better, this could be the next huge stepping stone in his career. His emotional range is so natural and impressive, he would be an absolute treasure to have in the mainstream. Make him the next Lakeith Stanfield or Jesse Plemons, put him in more things. Minari also features 2 prominent child performances that are good enough to not detract from the film, so I consider that a win. All this talk of extrapolation and emotional layering might give one the wrong impression, but Minari's literal story is really straightforward. It's not reinventing the wheel with how mind-bendingly complex it is. It's not simplistic to a fault, but the plot goes along at a steady enough pace, using the same basic elements for quite a while. If your favorite movie of last year was I'm Thinking of Ending Things, first of all, film is not an appropriate substitute for therapy, just throwing that out there. But if it was, Minari might feel a little slight in terms of structure, as its topical approach is a tad broader, but I think that tremendous emotional honesty, being able to understand where every character is coming from, without judgment, without presenting one character you are obviously supposed to root for. Because we want to see every character in this film happy and want to see them succeed, that's Minari's trump card. This is very likely to hit a wide assortment of people on an emotional level. I know it definitely did for me. Right now I'm thinking a decent 8 for Minari. Had this movie come out a few weeks earlier, it likely would have been pretty high on my best of the year list. And that's Minari. Anyway, if you like not only words, but the way I arrange and then say them, please like this video and consider subscribing to me, Bryan from the channel Bryan. Thank you, and goodbye.